This is Helping of Happiness, episode number 149. Today we have on Megan Barker, who is going to tell us all about her experience being an adoptive parent of a little baby girl and all the different steps that it takes to go through an adoption and the highs and lows and roller coaster of it all. Hi, I'm Hillary Hess, and you're listening to Helping of Happiness. I am a crazy mom of 7 kids who loves to build memories through eating delicious family recipes and going on adventures with my family. On this podcast, you'll be introduced to light-filled people and ideas that inspire me to be a better mom and help me bring family closer together and closer to Jesus Christ. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Megan Barker, today. We got talking for a long time and we didn't even have the record on for a while of it because it's not stuff that can be technically public. But there was a little part that she messaged me afterwards that she forgot to talk about on the podcast that I thought I would just read a little bit. So she recently adopted a little girl during this pandemic time period. And so she's all of her information is super relevant and recent. And she was talking to me about the emotional roller coaster of adopting and how hard that is. And so she says, right before we got the call that Lizzie was ours, I was doing our Come Follow Me lesson. So Come Follow Me is a Sunday school curriculum. I was pouring my heart out to Heavenly Father, and I knew He loved our family. I had been discouraged that we had started to doubt if there was something that we were supposed to be doing because they'd been trying so hard to adopt. I remember President Uchtdorf's message, doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith, and a scripture that week that was along the same lines. I know without a doubt that it was the right thing for our family and that Heavenly Father had a baby sister for us. 5 minutes later is when we got the message that the baby was available and ready for them. So incredible, just 5 minutes after that. I think that's so amazing. I can't wait for you to hear Megan's story, and let's go ahead and introduce you. I have such a treat for you guys tonight. One of my long-term friends who's so fun to reconnect on social media is my friend Megan Barker, and I'm so excited that you get to hear all about her adoption journey. So, hey, Megan.
Hi, yeah, I am so excited to be here, and yeah, definitely reconnecting over social media has been fun.
It's been so fun for me. I've loved it so much. So just a little background for our audience. I grew up, your brother was in my grade, Josh, and just one of my dear friends all through the years and in high school. And so it's just really fun for me to see your family and all the cute things that they're doing. So tell us a little bit about you and your family.
So my family, we have, my husband is Alan, and we've been married for 16 years, and we have 5 kids, 4 boys, and then a girl in the caboose. They're 14, 11, 9, 6, and 18 months.
So lots of fun running around. I wish you guys lived closer so all our boys could play because your boys all line up with my boys. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. So I can't wait to talk more about adoption with you. I have a family member that has really been trying to dive into this process. And so it really just stirred something in me that I want to learn more about it. I've had some friends go through the process before, but I think everybody's situation is so different. So if I can just kind of ask you all the things, and then maybe there's people listening that are considering it or just want to learn more, just like me too. So
yeah, for sure. Sounds great.
Okay, so the first thing I learned is that like sometimes the terminology can be a little touchy. So please correct me as we're going through, or if there's anything you want to tell me kind of how to most appropriately talk about adoption, I guess.
Yeah, and I personally am not super touchy, but I know it can be a sore spot for some people. And I have even made the mistake. I'm an adoptive parent, and I've made the mistake of saying a terminology wrong. So it happens, and we need to be forgiving forgiving if that happens. But yeah, so when you refer to the birth mother, it's birth mother or birth family or first mother, sometimes it's called, and birth father or bio father. Any of that is good. And I'm mom, my husband's dad, and they're not the real parent. We're not the real parent. That's the only one I don't like is real parent. Yeah. So.
Okay. And then I know I've heard from some people before, it's not giving up for adoption, it's
Yeah.
placed for adoption, right? Things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if we go along and I get like off, just tell me.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. And are you comfortable sharing about your birth mom publicly, or how sensitive is that?
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
totally good. I won't go completely into detail because we do have a closed adoption, which is on the list of questions, so we can talk about that later.
Okay.
Just to respect her privacy. But yeah, she was extremely young and had been raped by a much, much older friend of a family. So that's kind of her base story. She was so young and didn't know what was going on that she didn't know that she was even pregnant until 4 days before she gave birth. Yeah, and then to top it all off, she gave birth at home by herself. So just a lot of trauma for the mom, and that's basic. That's why we have a closed adoption, and I totally completely understand and support her in that. And I never met her, didn't get to meet her, but hopefully one day we can. And just want to tell her how much I love and appreciate her, and hope she has support and strength at home, because I just love her even though I never met her. And yeah, just hope she's okay after all of that.
Wow, that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what first prompted you to adopt? What kind of sent you into this decision? Because you
So
already had 4 of your own children, which
yes.
is a lot.
Yes. So for us it was kind of long term, like so it's a very long backstory.
It's okay. Go for it. We'll hear it.
When we first met, I was actually, the day I met my husband, I was turning in my papers to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I had actually gotten my mission call, and I had gone to the training center where you go to train to be a missionary. And I just got the biggest prompting that I needed to go home, and that there was a different plan for me. So I followed that and came home, and it was hard because I was really excited. I was going to be serving in Romania.
Oh my goodness.
And one of the things I was most looking forward to was helping in the orphanages on P days. That was something that the missionaries did there. And so I was kind of bummed about that. And so my husband and I, as we were still dating and before we even got engaged and anything, said, if we have, one day we'll adopt a baby from Romania. We'll just go that route, and then young and naive, and that was our plan, but we got married and had our 4 biological sons, and life is crazy and weird and hard, and we thought about it on and off throughout the years, and it just kind of never worked out. And then a few years ago, my oldest son all my boys do Portuguese immersion school.
Oh, cool.
So half their day is all Portuguese language only. And so it's really cool. And he was kind of in the guinea pig group starting it. So they had a big trip to Brazil, and I went with him to that, and just going through that and seeing the favelas, which are the ghettos there, that want that need to adopt was reignited in me. And so I came home from that trip and I was like, Alan, I I think we need to adopt. And he was on board, and we went back and forth for a little. It was a few months of, should we do this? Should we not do this, before we jumped in and started everything. But yeah, that's kind of what ignited it, was a song, because I have been given much, I too must give. And so that song just like would not leave my head for weeks, until I decided, okay, this is what we need to do.
Wow, that is really cool. I love that. That is really powerful. So, do you mind taking us through the adoption process? Because it's not like you say, okay, let's adopt, and you just get this baby.
Yes.
How did you do it? Because I know there's a lot of different ways. You can go through the state, or it's private, or some people go international. Kind of, what's the difference?
Yeah.
And how did you decide? Because
that was like our biggest thing, is like, do we want to do international? Do we want to do domestic? So I just kind of I was given some names of some people who had been through the process, and I talked to them first, because, I had no idea what I was doing or where to start. And so I did talk to a few people, and because I really wanted to do international, but just looking into it and all the requirements, and having 4 kids at home already, we decided to not go forward with that. But in that, we were given the name of an adoption agency in Utah. They work with families and adoptive families and birth moms all over the country, but yeah, just domestically. And I had looked into a couple other agencies also, but I went to their orientation and I just felt so much peace. Like, I knew that they were the agency we were supposed to work with, and you can do it privately, and just through like adoption.com and lots of other options. But we really felt like going through an agency was best for us.
Okay, so what cost do you pay for? Because I know it's really expensive. So
it is very expensive. And that when you do go like your privately way or through adoption.com, it can be a lot less expensive. But like I said, we really felt like an agency was for us. And so their fee to just work with them and no guarantee of getting a baby is like $22,000. So
wow,
it's a lot to like
foot in the door.
Yeah, just to get your foot in the door. But then they have everything set up to get your home study done and everything. And they're a really reputable company, and they have it like other agencies from all over the country work with them also. So I guess their average waiting time is like 6 months, when adoption in general can be stretched out for years. So that was good also, why we wanted to go with them, because we're not spring chickens anymore.
Well, and then you would love your baby that you're adopting to kind of be in the flow of your kids
yeah, because we already had, when we started it, he was like 4.5 when we started the process. So I'm like, he's going to be 5 or 6 year gap between kids. So yeah, hopped on that as quick as we could.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, you get approved. You get approved, and then there's lots and lots of paperwork. They do questionnaires. How do you expect to raise your kids? What do you do for discipline? Like, how were you raised as a child? How are your relationships with your parents? Like, everything you can think of, just to make sure you're mentally able and well to take care of these children and stuff like that. And then we took a couple of classes just to know what to expect through the adoption process, and background checks and all sorts of stuff. We read a couple books. Just, you can't get too much information on adoption.
Right. So how long did that process take you from when you started with that agency?
I think we started so it was like September to November,
Okay, so a
about,
couple of months.
yeah, so a couple
Okay,
of months, not too long, yeah.
okay. But definitely you need all that time to get things
Yeah.
situated and settled
Yeah.
anyway.
So when you were talking about finances and stuff, another financial thing that goes into like what you should like expect to pay is after you choose the birth mother, they'll usually will be like birth mother expenses that you pay for. And each birth mother is different. There could be housing, there could be food, there could be clothing expenses, and whether the mom has insurance or Medicaid or nothing, just all of those different things go into it. Some insurances will cover the birth of the baby as if it was your own
Mhm.
birth child. So that's really nice. Our birth mother had Medicaid, so that with all the medical was
That
covered, which
helps
was
a
really
lot
nice.
of your expenses
Yeah,
then right
that made
there.
our expenses go down, which was nice because we don't have like normal insurance. So yeah.
That would have been rough. So how long do they say they're covering her expenses? Is it just during the pregnancy or is there a postpartum period or how does
There's
that?
a little bit postpartum. It usually is a little bit postpartum too. So it's usually from the time you like sign the contract until like there's the 6 weeks postpartum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So depending on where you adopt from, it could be a whole different levels of expenses,
Yeah.
right?
So from this company in particular, it could be anywhere from including that $22,000. Your total expenses can be from like 35 to $60,000,
Wow.
just depending on where you're at, how long the birth mother's pregnant during the time you're contracted with them, or I don't know the right word for that. But yeah, so
Well, and if there's complications with the birth, I'm sure that gets
yes,
more expensive if there's emergencies or she has
yeah,
health issues
hmm,
or NICU stays. I guess that would pop in there,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So hopefully, like that does, I mean, that might go into your own insurance too. It's yeah, it does get more complicated.
So how do
Whenever,
they collect money? Do you get on a payment plan or do they need certain amounts at certain times or how does that
yeah,
work?
they kind of collect certain amounts at certain times. And then, I mean, ours was different, so I don't know how that last chunk goes for
Okay.
other people. We kind of had to pay that all. That that last bit at the end was like a lump sum to the other agency in the other state.
Right. And
Yeah,
because it was so quick, I'm sure normally you might
yeah,
have a little bit of time to kind of get
yeah,
order.
yeah. It's kind of like once you have the baby, they're like, we need the money before you take the baby home.
Yeah, that I can see why that would be important.
Yes.
You take the baby and run.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good to know because I'm sure that's a question that people are wondering, how much does this cost? Because that could
Yeah.
definitely be a factor
It,
for a lot of
it
people.
adds up for sure.
Yeah, it does, which I think is even more amazing that people like you are willing to adopt because that's a big sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think of $60,000, that's a year's salary for some people. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
amazing. How invasive was the home study? Did they come multiple times or was it once or
They just came the one time because we had everything in order. If you don't have stuff in order, if they see things that need fixing, they'll come back again. But we had everything ready, and so it was just the one time prior to getting a baby. Yeah, but it's not. So we did delve into foster care. I know that's a question later too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, we had previously delved into that a little bit. And that is very invasive, like everything locked up, everything, um, yeah. But this one was just like they came, they walked through, everything looked safe, but you didn't have to have like medicines and cleaning supplies locked up or any of that kind of stuff.
you didn't have to have like any loose electrical wires hanging out.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So tell me, maybe let's jump into the foster care really quick since you brought that up. And
Yeah.
so tell me, so was that required by your state to do that first? I know some,
No, you do not have, it's not required here to do that first before you adopt. We had a kind of long lost relative had reached out to family members. She had a daughter who was homeless and had some children. And so, and they were in foster care, but she wanted them with family. And so we went through the classes and, you know, we were going to do it, but it just wasn't right for our family at the time. I had a 1 year old of my four. I had four boys. My 1 year old, my baby was one, and it was twin 3 month olds. So,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
we really wanted to do it, but it just was not great timing. And so it was sad that that didn't work out. But the foster mom that had them at the time was able to adopt them, and she's kept in touch. So I get to see those cute twins as they've grown, and so that's been fun.
Yeah, that's a lot when you've got your kids so close, all of them. That's a
Yeah.
lot. So, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about open and closed adoptions. So, can you tell us the difference and then kind of your feelings on what's generally better?
Yeah, it over the last, I mean, 15, 20 years, it's changed so much. And almost every single adoption, I don't know an exact percentage or any, but a vast majority of them are open. And so in the time that we were adopting, we probably saw what they're called as birth mom situations. Like we get an email that says, okay, here's this mom, here's her situation, here's when the baby will be born and what gender, and here's how open or closed they want the adoption. And we had the choice to either say, okay, we want our information sent to them, to the birth mom, or not. And then that birth mom chooses from the pool of adoptive families who send their information to them. So over the period, we waited about 10 months between the time we started and we got our daughter. We knew it would take a little bit longer because we had four kids and not every mom is open, a birth mom is open to that. So anyways, so out of those 20 moms we had in that time, only one besides ours wanted a closed adoption. So all the rest wanted it open to some degree. And that was anything from one letter a year for the first 5 years to meeting once a year, having a in-person meeting once a year, or, you know, it just depended on the birth mom. But most of those were just a letter. Some of them were like once a month for the first year, and then once a year till 18, or, you know, most of them were something along those lines. So not super.
It's not like you're having dinner every Sunday or
Yeah,
something,
not
right?
like, and that does happen where families are super close with their birth moms, and it's great and it works for them, you know. I was hoping for an open adoption, but like I said earlier, like just the trauma with this birth mom, I totally agree and support her in the closed adoption. But she knows, the social worker told her if she changed her mind 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you know, she can
Right.
reach out to us and we'd love to meet her, or even just have letters exchanged or whatever she's comfortable with. So yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so you said you waited 10 months, and then how did you find out and how fast did you get the baby? Once they just notify you and then it's like, here's this
Yeah,
baby, or how does that work?
yeah, ours was super fast. The general way it works with this agency, like I said, the birth mom sends out information and then you can have your information sent to her. And usually there's 2 to 3 month waiting time where the birth mom can choose you, and then you can prepare for the baby or whatever. Ours was a little different. It was,
Especially because she didn't even know herself
yeah, she didn't
until
even know
4 days
herself. So
before.
we got, and usually they'd send out an email. That's how we, find out about the birth mom for the first time. Well, this one I got a text and said, check your email right away, please. So we're like, okay. And then we saw the birth mom situation, knew that the baby had been born the day before we got the email. And so the baby was at the hospital, and please send your information right away if you want to be considered. So we said a quick prayer, felt okay about it, and then sent the yes. And then it was actually, so this was one of their sister agencies that had sent the information about this birth mom. And so that agency, since it was a closed adoption, they were the ones that chose us. And so that was like 10 or 11 in the morning that we got the email. And then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we got a phone call and they said, hey, we have a baby here for you.
Oh my goodness. That's just like overnight.
Yeah, it was. And so within an hour, we were out the door to the airport. But luckily my parents had just come over for dinner, and so they were there, and they stayed with the boys.
Kids. We'll see you later.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you just do a quick pickup and come back, or did you end up spending the night?
Yeah, you generally have, so when it's interstate, so when it's between two states, you have to, there's like paperwork that has to be done. And so you just, in the state, you can't leave the season until states have signed the paperwork and stuff. So we were there for almost
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's a long time to just all of a sudden be away from your kids.
Yeah. It doesn't help when they accidentally send the paperwork snail mail instead of overnight. So
especially with the way the post office is right now.
Yeah. It was hard having mom and dad gone for 2 weeks. So he went and flew home, and then that day we did find out that the paperwork was finished. So I just flew home the next day. Yeah.
So your kids got 1 day of dad as a little heads up before everything else changed.
Yep.
Wow. How have your kids taken to the whole having a new baby sister and everything? How's that going?
They just adore her. Yeah, it was of course crazy at first. Bringing a new baby home is crazy, whether it's a birth child or an adopted child, adjusting to a baby and a new family member. So it was a little crazy at first, but yeah, they just absolutely adore her.
That is so fun. All these wonderful brothers. I love it.
Yes.
So how long does it take until the adoption is legally finalized? Is that something that takes a while, or how does that work?
It depends on the state that you're in, and it depends on if there's a pandemic or not.
Oh, geez, you just had everything stacked against you.
Our situation was super weird too, because the birth father was older and had raped the birth mother, and she had named him. They arrested him and did the DNA testing while we were still there. They did the paternity test to make sure that's who it was, and it was. My social worker here and my social worker in the state we adopted from both couldn't explain the reasoning. It just was weird. We had to wait for his trial to finalize, which, why that should matter when it's, rape of a minor.
Yeah, I guess they have to convict him to really.
Yeah, they had to convict him first. Yeah.
But if it's his child and it's a minor, that's like proof right there.
Right? So anyways, so we had to wait for that, but then his trial was supposed to be in April of 2020.
Oh.
So, but generally it takes like 4 to 6 months. That should be normal. Ours was like 15 months because of Corona and the trial and stuff. So yeah, it took a little longer.
Extreme circumstances for
Yes,
sure.
extreme circumstances, yes.
Wow. So let's see, we already talked about kind of how you chose your agency and that a little bit. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to add on that?
Oh yeah, just do homework a little bit on the agencies because they offer different things and
Mhm.
just go with your gut what feels good. I'm not the best person to talk to about, other methods about going about it, but I really felt comfortable. There's a lot of scammers out there that'll try and rope you in, and after you help
And
out with like funds for the birth mom, they'll disappear or, that kind of stuff. So,
and that's why it is nice to go with the trusted agency because
mhm.
you're actually doing it in the proper way. That is good.
Yeah. And they're walking you through every step. So it's really nice to have that too.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a little overwhelming with everything
Yeah.
you have to do.
Yeah.
So, was there anything that I missed that you wanted to share about the experience?
There's a lot of good children out there that need homes, and at least look into it. It wouldn't hurt at all to just look in it. And at first I had like guilt almost. I'm like, am I taking a baby away from a couple that can't have babies? But there's always, there's always babies out there that need homes. And yeah, and it's been such a blessing for our family, and we just love her so much. And she's the happiest, sweetest baby ever. So it's just been so good for us.
Well, and how fun to have a little girl at the end. That
Yes.
is so cute. So
Yeah.
cute. Oh, I appreciate this so much. So I wanted to finish off, if you don't mind, with our 3 helpful and happy questions. It's like totally different from what we've been
Yes.
talking about. But this ties into our blog, which houses the podcast, but we also talk about food, family recipes, and travel tips, and home and family hacks. And so it also gets us to get to know you a little bit better too. So
Yeah.
let's do your first one because I'm always trying to figure out more ideas for dinner or just because I love to talk about food. So, what is your favorite food or meal?
I love just like authentic Mexican food.
Mm.
So that speaks to my heart. So I love like carne asada or carnitas, something like that, tacos.
Oh, you're making
Yes.
me hungry. I love that too. So good. Do you cook it at home or do you like to go out and get it?
Either way, yeah, we have a really delicious Mexican place by us that's close, or just make it at home.
Those fresh chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurants are almost my favorite reason to go. They're so good.
Yes, can't beat that.
Okay, so let's talk about travel. What's your best trip you've ever gone on, or you can say your dream vacation, or both, if you have 2 things.
All right. My favorite probably my parents and most of the siblings were able to go on a Mediterranean cruise. And I don't love cruises themselves. Like I get like cabin fever on the boat. I'd like
Just
rather
get
be
me to
out
the place.
exploring. Yes. But it was so great to be able to like sleep and travel and get to the next port overnight. But yeah, we got to go to Spain and France and Italy. So it was just so beautiful, and seeing like just, in the United States, our country's like a baby compared to the rest of the world. So just on seeing so much rich history. And a dream vacation would be like just a little tiki hut, like right on the ocean, just like
That
soaking in
just
the
sounds so good. That
sun.
sounds so good. I'm like you. I would much rather just fly to the destination and be there than spend the time on the boat.
Yeah.
But I do love the idea of a Mediterranean cruise because then you don't have to check into all these different hotels. You can just leave your stuff on the boat.
Yeah.
Is that nice to
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
worry about your luggage everywhere that you're going?
Yeah. But we were like, the only downside too was that we had like 5 hours like in
So
each
then you're
step.
hurrying back to the
You
boat.
can't do Rome in 5 hours, but
No, you
we
can go
got,
see the Trevi Fountain and then you're busting it back to the.
yeah, but we did get, but everything we got to see was just amazing and wonderful. So it was still great.
And how fun to do it with your family. I bet that was really cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun.
So cool. Do you have a home hack for us?
I had a hard time with that.
Family one?
I'm
I
like,
know.
I
I
don't
need
know
to
which is
word
like,
this better.
yeah, no, because I'm like, I don't know which is like normal things, but I was like, one thing that does totally random. I'm sure all of them are totally random, but one thing that helps me out, saves elbow grease later, is just after my kids take a bath, I just wipe it down while it's still wet.
Ooh.
And it just saves that nasty ring and having to like scrub it later. And it always just looks clean.
Oh,
So
the best
on cleaning day, you just spray it and wipe it down again, and it's good to go.
That's the best hack ever, because I think the worst thing I hate to clean is the bathtub and the shower. Those are the absolute, because your back gets so tired from bending in there and scrubbing.
Yes.
And they're so hard to get those stains out. Okay, so I can just do one more big clean like that. And then from now on,
Yes.
I can just wipe it. Oh, and then everything is so hot and fresh. It's probably so easy to wipe up. It's such a good idea. I feel the same way whenever they have a bubble bath, because when it all goes out and then it all
Yes, and it just
looks
stays
gross
there.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I usually have like I usually put like an extra hand towel next to the bath mat that's not long enough, so I have it on the floor anyways to save for spills or whatever, and then afterwards I just throw it in and wipe it down and good to go.
Oh my gosh, you need to come over. We need to go through all your other hacks. Maybe I need to go observe your homemaking. Oh, that's so good. I love it. Oh, that was perfect. Good. Now I'll always have a clean bathtub, and I'll train my kids to do it, so I won't even have to do it. It'll be
Yes, there you
great.
go.
Make them clean their own tub.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Megan. This has been so cool to hear your journey. I mean, just so neat. I'm so happy that you guys get to have this little girl join your family.
Yes.
It's a neat, special time.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's great catching up, and hope I can help someone out.
Before you go, I had one last little thing to share. Over this weekend, we were watching General Conference. It's a broadcast put out by our church that comes out twice a year, and there's speeches from our apostles and our prophets in our church. And there happened to be a talk on adoption, and it really piqued my interest because we had just recorded this episode, and I wanted to share just a little quote from that. So the talk was given by Elder Neil L. Anderson, and he has a grandson that married a girl who was adopted as a baby, and her name is Emily. And Emily has recently had a baby of her own, and these are some of her thoughts. Emily recently wrote, quote, "Throughout these last 9 months of pregnancy, I had time to reflect on the events of my own birth. I thought of my birth mother, who was just 16 years old. As I experienced the aches and challenges that pregnancy brings, I couldn't help but imagine how difficult it would have been at the young age of 16. The tears flow even now as I think of my birth mother, who knew she couldn't give me the life she desired for me and unselfishly placed me for adoption. I can't fathom what she might have gone through in those 9 months, being watched with judging eyes as her body changed, the teen experiences she missed, knowing that at the end of this labor of motherly love, she would place her child into the arms of another. I am so grateful for her selfless choice and that she did not choose to use her agency in a way that would take away my own." Emily concludes, "I am so thankful for Heavenly Father's divine plan, for my incredible parents who loved and cared for me, and for the temples where we can be sealed to our families for eternity." I hope you enjoyed this episode today. If you know somebody that is thinking about adopting or who maybe is thinking of placing a child for adoption, I hope you'll refer this episode to them. And if you really want to keep having these episodes pop up in your podcast app, make sure you give us a little subscribe so you can see any new episodes that come, and a rating and review would be awesome.